Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Ute Dash. My name is Cole Bagley, and I'm your host for today's show, joined again by the lovely Sammy Mora, editor for the Daily Utah Chronicle Sports Desk. Sammy, how are we doing this week?
It's cold. It snowed this weekend. I have my fuzzy socks on. I'm ready for some Utah football. How are you, Cole?
I'm doing quite well. Sammy, excited. The cold weather, I think, has really made me crave some college football, especially some Utah football. So just one more week and a half, and we get to watch those Utes.
A week from Saturday.
It's fantastic.
I'm so excited.
I didn't know if we were going to be able to say that in the year 2020, but we will, and here we are. And in 1 week, we'll get to watch those Utes hopefully thrash some Wildcats here in Salt Lake City. But before we do that, we need to know, Sammy, who is going to be the guy taking the handoffs for the Utes.
I think it's going to be Devin Brumfield. There's been a lot of talk. Like Whittingham even said today, that the beginning of it was this morning. He said that it's going to be a running back by committee style for the first couple of weeks, but I don't think that's going to last very long. I think it's going to be Devin Brumfield's job come week 3. Let alone, like he's a really good back. Like last season, he had 263 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was behind Zach Moss, who is the leading rusher in school history. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. He's a workhorse, and I think he's going to be able to get it done for the Utes this year.
Yeah, Sammy, I definitely could see that. But I think, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, I do think it's going to be a committee of maybe a couple guys taking handoffs, but I think the touches are going to be given to Brumfield and Wilmore for the first 1-2 weeks. I do think there will be a solid starter for that USC game, but I do think we're going to see those two guys getting the majority of the touches, and I'm not so sure it's going to be Brumfield getting the majority after that from week 3 on. I don't know that it's going to be him, because just looking at some numbers from Wilmore last year, both these guys didn't get to see the ball a whole lot because the godsend, the poster child, Zach Moss was taking it almost every time. But Wilmore had 194 yards, 1 touchdown, an average of 4 yards a carry. So pretty close, a little bit behind Brumfield. Like you said, Brumfield 263 on yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4.5 yards per carry. But I think it's just really close, and too close to call it from now, saying, okay, yeah, week 3, it's going to be Brumfield taking those touches away from Wilmore.
And like Witt's already said, that all 4 running backs that we have that are vying for time, so Jordan Wilmore, Devin Brumfield, Ty Jordan, Mekhi Bernard, he said all 4 of them bring vastly different things to the table. So you have all of them do different things. Like I see Brum as like a bruising back. Like he is big. He's going to be able to get those in there. Some of them are shiftier. Some of them are able to catch the balls in the backfield. So all 4 running backs are going to bring different things. But at the same time, this Utah offense is going to need to find an identity, and they're going to need to find it fast, whether it is a pass team or if we continue on the lineage of being a run team. They're going to need to find their offensive identity pretty fast. And I think one of those big things to helping get that identity is the running back.
For sure. It'll be interesting. That I think this year, probably more so than any other year out of maybe the last 5 or 6 seasons, the Utes could maybe change up their offense a little bit. I think we've been very heavy run offense. Obviously, when you have a guy like Zach Moss, you're going to give him the ball. But this year, with the set of wide receivers and tight ends that the Utes are going to be playing, we might see that change a little bit. We might see that shift a little bit, maybe even out on the scale a little bit more, seeing more passes, or maybe an even set of passes and handoffs, or maybe even some more passes than handoffs. But I think both these guys, Wilmore and Brumfield, have the potential to be the starter. To this point, I don't know that either has really stood out more than any other in the training camp. It didn't seem that way in Whittingham's media availability last week. There were questions about that, and he said, there's 4 guys that are doing a great job, and he didn't seem to be stuck on one more than the other. So I think we will see some shared handoffs for those first 2 games. But like I agree with you, Sammy. I think week 3, somebody's going to be given that responsibility to be getting the majority, especially when they're going into a game against USC where you need that consistency.
Mm-hmm. And even today, Whittingham said, like, we're at the finish line of fall camp at this point. And Whittingham even said that all 4 guys have separated themselves, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. Like he said, he's not going to, in typical Whittingham fashion, he's not going to tip his hand, just like he's not going to tip his hand about who the starting quarterback is. So he said that all, like, there's one back that's has the speed. He said there's one that's able to catch the balls in the backfield. It's just Utah has a long lineage of really good running backs. It even goes back before Moss. You had Devontae Booker, you had Joe Williams, you have all of these really good backs. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if Utah does deviate away from that typical run first offense, because we've been so used to that in years past. And it's going to be different to see, honestly, because you have not only an arsenal of really good running backs, you also have an arsenal of really good pass catchers. And I think that this year is probably the most balanced offense Utah's had in a while.
For sure. I think Whittingham has kind of found himself in a position that he hasn't been used to for the last 6, 7, 8 years. I feel like there's normally been a starter week 1 at the running back position. Now we've had some fantastic running backs that have been the clear option, but I think this year I don't know that there's that big of a spread. But I'm hoping that through the first 2 games that he does figure that out, and I expect him to. I mean, looking at the yards that were given up by Arizona and UCLA last year, Moss torched Arizona for 203 yards, which was the most that he ran all season in a single game, and then UCLA for 127, which was the 3rd most. And so I don't think that these defenses have improved a whole lot to this season. And so I expect there to be a lot of development on who it's going to be, so that when they get to that game against USC, that they know, okay, this guy's taking the reps. And I don't think there's a clear answer. I could see it being Wilmore. I could see it being Brumfield. I think only time will tell. And I think these first 2 games will be very telling on who that's going to be.
I think it also depends on who Utah's playing, because each defense has a different vibe. So like Brumfield could have a breakout game against Arizona, but struggle against UCLA. And then it could be Wilmore's game to shine against UCLA, but he has a rough game against Oregon State. And Ty Jordan is just torching Oregon State. It's like Utah has really good backs, and they're able to use their backs in a lot of different ways, whether it be catching balls in the backfield, where it be just running it down the middle and shoving it down people's throats. Utah's backs are really good, and I'm not worried about that. I'm like, whoever ends up getting the starting job at Utah, I'm going to be content with, and I'm going to be happy with. I personally think it should be Devin Brumfield, but I can see Jordan Wilmore making a really strong push for it, especially considering that people have compared him to Zach Moss.
Yeah, that's the comparison that I kind of hold to, that kind of makes me not so sure about Brumfield as much. As you watch the highlights of Wilmore, and especially some of the high school things, he has that Marshawn Lynch-esque to him. He's able to bounce off guys and pick up 3 or 4 extra yards. A second down and 10 or second down and 9, where he might go for 3 yards and it looks like the defense has got him and it's going to be, maybe a 3rd and 5. He pushes it a couple extra yards and makes it a first down or a 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, an easier situation for the offense to convert or to keep the drive going. So that's just what I like. Not that Brumfield is incapable of those things, but I just feel like I've seen that more from Wilmore than I have from Brumfield in tapes and stuff like that.
The last thing I want to add on this running back room before we move on is, speaking on Wilmore, and the point you just made is one of my favorite. The touchdown he scored last year was amazing. It was against Oregon State, and he dragged 2 Oregon State defenders with him into the end zone. That is really impressive. And there's only one person I've seen do something like that, and it's Zach Moss.
It'll be interesting to see, and I'm excited. But again, we said this. I think we said this in every show. We trust Witt. We trust Coach Witt to make the right decision, to put the guy out there that's going to produce the best results. And so, to me, doesn't matter who it is as long as they're helping us win football games.
In Witt, we trust.
Yes, absolutely. I need that tattooed on my back or something.
Get a T-shirt. Get a T-shirt that says "In Witt We Trust."
I guess that's easier.
Someone make Cole a T-shirt that says "In Witt We Trust."
Yes, somebody out there, whoever's watching, I need a T-shirt like that.
Yeah, you could drop it off at the Crony offices, and we will. I'll make sure Cole gets it.
To all our fans out there. All right, Sammy, let's move on to the next one. Utes in the NFL. Just checking in on these guys. We've got a couple players that are not just standing out as rookies, but they're standing out and look like veterans in the NFL. Sammy, tell us a little bit about what's going on.
So there's 3 that we're going to touch on this week because they're the 3 that we think have had best run up to this point. I want to talk about Jalen Johnson first and foremost. I love me some Jalen Johnson, but versus the Rams on Monday, he had 35 coverage snaps, 3 targets, 1 catch allowed, and 1 forced incompletion. That's insane. He is consistently pass breaking up, doing the thing. He's doing what all knew he would do because we've seen it at Utah, but to see him do it at the next level against some of these really good wide receivers in the NFL is just like really fun to see, and it's really fun to watch.
Oh, it absolutely is. And just to add some more impressive stats from JJ, he's on another level. Through the first 4 weeks, he led the NFL. Sammy, I'm going to have to do it. He led the NFL in yards per coverage snap when he lined up in press coverage at 0.19 yards per coverage snap. Not just rookies, but all NFL corners. Are you kidding me? That is insane to see a rookie do that.
He's great. He's fantastic. I love him.
Oh, I do too. And another thing, in his first 2 games, he became second all-time in passes defended by a rookie with 5 through the first 2 games. There's only one more player in NFL history that's done that through the first 2 games. And for Jalen to be able to be second all-time amongst rookies in any stat is pretty fantastic. And as well, he sealed the victory against the Lions. I think it was in week 1 or 2. As he batted away the final pass of the game in the end zone as time expired. He locked down that wide receiver. Pass went to the end zone. Game is on the line. He bats it out, and he does it. He does it as if he acts like he's been there before. You know, he's not. He doesn't have that rookie mentality of, oh my gosh, I just did something crazy in the NFL. No, he bats it away, and then he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, no big deal. This is where I am.
It's just another day on the job.
Exactly. You know, it's crazy. He bats it away, and then he just like gives a high five to one of his teammates, and they just walk to the sideline. The game is over, and his teammates are running to him, and he's just like, what? Did I do something big? Like, what happened? I don't even know.
Speaking of big game-winning plays, your other fave, Julian Blackmon. Can we just talk about how he's coming off an ACL injury that people thought he wouldn't play at all this year? And he had the game-winning interception against the Bengals. And through the first 7 weeks, according to PFF, he is the 2nd highest rated defensive rookie at a 74.1. Cole, would you like to guess who the only player who's ranked higher than him is?
Oh, I don't know.
It's Chase Young. It's Chase Young, bud. And he wasn't even, when I was looking at these stats the other night, he's not that far behind Chase Young in terms of this rating. I love Julian Blackmon. I've said it on Twitter once. I'll say it again. This has been and always will be a Julian Blackmon stan account. I love him. He's so good.
Hey, he liked one of my tweets about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if I've been happier lately. I really
accurate. It's fair.
He's fantastic. No, another thing too, the PFF also has him ranked 10th amongst all safeties in the NFL. All safeties. I think there's like 83 safeties on that list. He's 10th.
He has 2 interceptions on the season already, which is like tied for like 13th or 14th in the NFL for the season already.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to that interception that he made against the Bengals, you watch that play, Julian read Burrow's eyes the entire play. He immediately stepped up to the area Burrow was targeting and just waited for the pass. He knew it was coming. And I watched the post-game interview with Julian. He talked about how he made a mental note of how earlier in the game he recognized, Kate, we were giving up a lot of yards in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thought, okay, the game's on the line. There's a good chance that Burrow's going to go back to that. And he cashed in. That just shows that Blackman is a very smart player and is aware of in-game tendencies and patterns and doesn't just play snap to snap. No, he sees it as a whole. He sees the whole game. He's recognizing patterns and he's making plays based off that big plays.
Juice did the same thing when he was here at Utah. So I don't know why. When people are like, "Oh my God, he's doing so well," I don't get why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? He did the same thing at Utah and he's doing it for the Colts. But touch on our third Ute in the NFL, we're going to flip it over. We're going to go to the offense. And no, you're probably thinking, oh, they're going to talk about Zach Moss. No, we're not.
Unfortunately not.
This goes out to all of our Broncos fans that live here in Utah. This is for Tim Patrick. Man's been balling out. The Broncos don't have a lot going for them right now, I'm sorry to admit. But Patrick has been killing it. He already has 354 yards, 2 touchdowns this season on 23 receptions. That's pretty good. He's averaging 15.4 yards per catch, and his longest catch this season was for 41 yards. Man's about to get paid in this offseason.
Well, he's made some big improvements, and to me, those are the kinds of players that you want to go after. Obviously you have those stars that are consistent and put up big numbers every single season, but the diamonds in the rough are the guys that make improvements season to season. Mm-hmm. And he's clearly found some good chemistry with the quarterback. He's already got more yards and touchdowns in 6 games than he did in 8 games last season and 16 games the year before. Both more yards and more touchdowns. That's crazy. And it's almost double the yards.
And we're like midway at this point. But also, can we talk about how the fact that Tim Patrick was not drafted? He was not drafted. He was picked up in free agency by the Broncos. And now he's out here doing this. He is going to get paid this offseason.
Well, he's only going to get better.
The sky's the limit for Tim Patrick at this point. I think that if the Broncos can figure out what else is going on around them, Patrick's going to have a really good career. And I don't know, once other receivers come back, things might shift a little bit and he might not be the number one guy anymore. But I have a feeling Tim Patrick will be a legit deep threat for the Broncos. Even next year when everyone's healthy, he's good at catching that deep ball. I think Brian Thompson has the same arc. I think Brian Thompson will get drafted, but I think Brian Thompson also will be a legit deep threat in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because these are the kinds of stories that make you feel good and you love to see, because I think when it comes to professional sports and specifically the NFL, all it takes is the right amount of chemistry. Looking at Patrick's numbers the last couple of years, I just don't think that there was a connection between him and the quarterback. But this year, he's obviously has that. You get the right guy throwing him the right passes, and he's showing that he can be trusted with that. And like you said, he's going to get paid. He's only going to get better. And I think the sky's the limit. We could be seeing him as a pretty predominant receiver for the Broncos for the next couple years, next couple seasons, which is exciting for him.
Very exciting for him. Denver loves a good Utah football player. They also have Garrett Bowles, who also, side note, vastly improved from last season to this year. Looking great. Good on him, because I know a lot of people hated on him last year for what he did and how he played. he's really stepped it up. So we'll give a nice round of applause to Garrett Bowles for that. Also, your Chargers have a really good offensive lineman in Sam Tevy, so that's fun.
Well, yes, and he loves the camera. He cannot control himself around that thing.
Let him have his moment, big guy. The big boys don't get that much love, so let him have his moment, okay?
As long as he keeps protecting that quarterback and that quarterback keeps doing what he's doing, fine by me. But it'll be fun to see how these our guys in the NFL continue to do. I think one thing that I just love is I feel like they don't get enough credit when they're drafted or when they go to that next level. Everybody's like, oh yeah, Julian Blackmon, he's got an ACL injury. He'll get drafted, but maybe
he might sit out the first year. He's probably gonna have to sit out the first year. His ceiling's not that high. Yeah, no, you're wrong.
Screw you. On to the next topic.
Ergo, why we come to Utah.
Hey, Sammy, I'm gonna let you have this one. This is how you do it. You put the microphone right next to your mouth, and you just go.
Okay, so I gotta just like get it out of the hair. But we've touched on it with Julian and JJ. Utah is DBU. I'm gonna clap. I'm gonna clap on that because Utah is DBU. Okay, we're gonna run down the list of teams in the Pac-12 with how many defensive backs they have in the league. So this is safeties and corners. So we'll start with USC. They have 3. UCLA has 2. Stanford has 3. Arizona has 2. Arizona State has 2. Washington State has 0. Cal has 2. Colorado has 4. Oregon has 3. And Oregon State has 2. Utah has 7. And yes, Washington does have more than us at 10. Not all 10 of those guys are consistently making plays.
Who's talking about it? Who is talking about any of those guys right now?
The only ones that you can make arguments for are Buda Baker, who got rocked by DK. Like, did you see him like wave? He started to wave and then DK just went boom, just destroyed him. Okay? Buda Baker, Byron Murphy, and Marcus Peters are the only ones that I can see you making an argument for as to making plays in the NFL from Washington. Meanwhile, Utah has the aforementioned Jalen Johnson and Julian Blackmon. Terrell Burgess, who sadly broke his ankle on Monday night, but
was doing really well.
Really good. So prayers up for Burgess. You're going to come back better than this, or better from this, and you're going to kill it next year. Eric Rowe at the Dolphins and Marcus Williams, who picked off Tom Brady in week 1. Utah is
mad about that.
You can't. As a Buccaneers fan, I wasn't mad about it. I was like, "Oh, look, a Ute picking off my quarterback." I was like happy for Marcus, but I was depressed for myself.
It's okay.
But Utah is DBU. There's no way you can there's like, okay, yes, Washington could make an argument just solely based on the fact that there are 10. They have 10 guys, but those 10 guys, not all of them are making plays. Majority, like I can say JJ, Blackmon, Burgess, Rowe, Williams. There's 5 out of our 7 who are consistently making plays and who are impacting their teams.
Well, and just looking at some of the stats from last season, I understand this is last season and we did lose some of these guys to the NFL, but we've obviously proven time and again that we can take 3 stars and 4 stars and turn them into elite corners and defensive backs and safeties, all while they're at Utah. So looking at 2019 stats, the defense, there were 436 passing attempts against Utah's defense. They only completed 247 of those, and there were 14 interceptions.
No fly zone.
No, we don't let it happen. And the average per attempt, the yards, was 6.02. We're not giving up first downs. You got to put the ball on the ground and in the air if you're going to get first downs against Utah.
And even putting it on the ground is a struggle.
Yes.
Putting it on the ground is also a struggle against Utah.
Well, and we only allowed 16 passing touchdowns. And the red zone attempts were 23 for 31. And touchdowns were 14 for 31. Not even 50%.
Utah is defensive back university.
Well, and to add to that, I looked at the rankings for all the schools last season. Utah was number 1 defensive team, and it was by quite a long shot. Oregon,
landslide.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stats were a landslide. Now, Oregon was close here and there, but Utah blew everybody out. They destroyed everybody. We only gave up an average of 15 points a game, opposed to Arizona at the bottom, 35.
Does that surprise you though? This is a Kyle Whittingham team with a Kyle Whittingham defense. I'm not surprised.
What's crazy to me though is going through the list of 12 teams. Utah number 1, 15 points a game. You go halfway and it's almost double that. USC allowed 29. That's crazy to only be halfway down the list and you're already double what the number 1 has been giving up. That shows how big of a difference there is between the programs. And now Oregon was only 1.5 behind us, but they still were behind us. Utah was number 1, and almost all stats, Utah was number 1.
I don't know what else to add because I've seen it, you've seen it, Utah fans have seen it. We're defensive back you. That's all I want to say. And we have some killer defensive backs who are in the program right now. You have Clark Phillips, you have RJ Hubert, you have Nate Ritchie, you have all of these guys that are going to play at the next level. And Utah is just really good at recruiting defensive backs because they can see that. They can see oh, look, Jalen Johnson's a rookie and he's just being the best. So I want to do that too. Or I play safety and look at Julian Blackman. He already has 2 interceptions on the season. And the season it's at the midway point. Come to Utah. Ergo the title of this episode, come to Utah.
Well, and that's to look at how impressive Utah was last season, the year before that. Think about how much better our recruiting is even going to get after this because of what those guys are doing in the NFL. Like you said, Sammy, these rookies, they're looking like seasoned veterans. They're looking like they've been in the NFL 6-7 seasons and are Pro Bowlers. And I mean, could we see Jalen Johnson or Blackman as a Pro Bowler this year?
There's a possibility, but also our seasoned veterans, Eric Rowe and Marcus Williams, are making big plays too. This isn't just. It's not. I'm getting worked up because it's not. It's so Utah's just so good at producing NFL talent, and we've talked about it before. I will take it. I will argue that until the day I die, that Utah is one of the best schools at producing Pac-12 talent. I mean, at NFL talent.
Well, I just don't see any other argument. I don't see a stronger argument. They're proving it in the Pac-12. They're proving it in the NFL. They're proving it years into the NFL. They're proving it right when they step on the freaking field in the NFL.
Rookies. You are not usually rookie. Usually only first round rookies are the ones who see that immediate playing time. Julian was third or fourth round.
Yeah, I think so.
Later rounds, Jalen was second, and they're both making the big plays, and they're defensive backs. So this is why Utah's defensive back you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, but honestly, before I really got into Utah football, I was more of a linebacker kind of guy on the defensive end. You know, I love to see those linebackers come in on a blitz and take out the quarterback or, stop the running back, those kinds of things. I'm a DB guy now because of what Utah has done. I love the secondary because I think the secondary can make huge impacts on a football game. Not that linebackers can't, but look at what JJ and Blackman have done. Obviously it's a team effort, but they are winning football games by making big plays. It's not obviously the ball has to be thrown their direction or to the direction of the wide receiver.
People are scared to throw. People are scared to throw towards Jalen Johnson right now in the NFL, and he's a rookie. Can we talk about how killer he's going to be in 2 or 3 seasons? If people are afraid to throw to him now, It's not even gonna be funny how good he's gonna be. He already is good, but he's gonna be so much better.
Well, if our fans are wanting to continue to get me things, in addition to the in wit we trust, for Christmas, I think I'd like a Jalen Johnson Bears jersey. I'm a size extra large.
We did talk about this the other night about how clean those jerseys are. I'm not a fan of a white jersey, but those are very clean.
So hit me up. Christmas is around the corner. Sammy could probably use one too. But unfortunately, Sammy, that's all the time we have. We do want to thank everyone for following us today here on Ute Dash. We want to remind you guys that we have also collaborated with Sports Pac-12, where you can find our shows, lots of great articles about these types of players. Be sure to follow them at sportspac12.com and on Twitter at sportspac12. In addition, please don't forget to check our website, dashsports.tv. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Dash Sports TV. Thanks again to everyone, to Sammy.
We'll see you guys on Sunday. We're switching the stream schedules up. Football's here. We'll see you guys. We'll be back Sunday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So 4 p.m. for all of you guys back on the West Coast, in California, because I know our California viewers are some of the most loyal. But we'll be back on Sunday. Guys, it's almost game week.
It's go time.
Utah football is almost back. I'm so excited.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on Sunday, and we'll see Arizona next week. And as always, Sammy, go Utes.
Go Utes, guys.